Hello, welcome back to 1874. I can't be bothered to wait any longer to do this podcast, so I've jumped on. I'm pretty sure nothing's gone wrong with Sancho or Harvey Elliott, so I'm almost all the way there that they've signed and it will be announced through the night. So I'm just going to come on and do my third stream of the day on 1874. This show is sponsored by NordVPN. Head to 1874.io/NordVPN and you'll get a huge discount plus 4 months for free. So well worth checking out. Get some extra football and use NordVPN. Do let me know if the audio is okay because it's sounding a bit funny in my ears. I think I have not played with my settings enough, so that's not great. I don't like the way I can not hear. So yeah, there we go. I've just rectified that on the fly. People are starting to come through to the stream now. So like I say, let me know if there's any issues. Kids are hammering the internet at home as always, playing games on the internet as well. So if anything goes awry, it's because of them. Right then. Deadline day, a lot more exciting than I thought it was. If you've been following the channel through the day, you'll know that I've been on a couple of times already and probably really given my thoughts on all the stuff that Villa are doing. But I felt like once the deadline has closed and it's been shut for an hour, it's probably right to jump on and just kind of wrap it all up. And what I've done is here, you'll like this, those that are watching live on YouTube. Hello, Ben Brooks, sorry. Hello, US Crits. And hello, Joe Walsh. I'm going to answer that question because I like it. He says, Joe Walsh says, a positive day. Do you feel we've done enough? We've done more than I thought we were going to. I feel 100 times better than I did this time last night and this time and this morning, jumping on TalkSport this morning. As I did, I expected Sancho and Lindelof. I said that in all my content around Crystal Palace that I expected those two to be signed. I think I was a little bit underwhelmed by them, but I've had time to marinate it and think about Jadon Sancho, and I've actually managed to convince myself that it's a really, really good signing. Speaking to people who've worked at Chelsea, they say he was never a problem there. They say that he was a good addition to the squad, worked hard, did everything that was asked of him, just wasn't really the system that suits him to the maximum. I believe our system will. And then Harvey Elliott is the nice icing on the cake, really, because that wasn't one I saw coming yesterday. That's a young, vibrant English footballer making his way to Aston Villa Football Club. He'll be ours as well. So a lot of our signings feel quite short term. This is a signing for the long term because Villa are going to have an obligation to buy Harvey Elliott. So that's great. That's the one that's really excited me. He'll add some flair, he'll add some creativity in that number 10 position, whether he operates from the right hand side as a number 10 or whether he plays centrally. And just the all round balance of the squad now, it's not quite where it was at last season. And I think in terms of quality, maybe it's not quite there. But in terms of attacking numbers now and numbers in general across the squad, I'll put it up on the screen in a minute. We're part of where we were in the second half of the season. So that's brilliant because at the start of the day, that was not what I was expecting at all. Last night, walking out the ground, felt like a real kick in the teeth. Jacob texted me at half time telling me that essentially I was going to Fenerbahce. Now, I never said it was done. I think it was one that Villa and Emery wanted to do for whatever reason. It hasn't happened. The finances haven't quite worked. For Villa, maybe, they didn't have the headroom to do it. I know that Harvey Elliott's wage is so much less than Marco Asensio. Maybe that's helped. It's nice to have a look to the future. As I've said, the wages that Harvey Elliott on is compared to Marco Asensio, that Asensio's will dwarf Harvey Elliott's wage. So it's a really, really interesting and exciting signing. It's been an interesting day as well. Of course, the backdrop of last night's game was played under the Emery Martinez news and a lot of bad feeling around him. Understandably, I think Villa fans they're gonna have to forgive and forget because he's going to be our goalkeeper for this season. I'm 99% confident of that. Emi Martinez is going to have to be reintegrated into the first team, and everyone, including the players, the manager, him himself, everyone's going to have to build some bridges, and I'm sure they can, and I'm sure the fans will be guided by Unai Emery, as I said on the earlier streams, and as I said on Claret and Blue when I was with Dan Rollinson. But it's an absolute mess, and just sums up the challenges of having a transfer window open whilst the season's taking place. You've just seen what's happened with Mark Gahey, who's been, the most professional and humble guy the whole way through the transfer window. His move to Liverpool is happening, pulled out last second, Crystal Palace, and he's not getting that move that he thought he was getting and that he probably deserved for the way he handled himself over the transfer window as well. So that just shows you, the players are commodities as well. We talk about the behaviour of players, and Martinez hasn't behaved well, hasn't covered himself in glory. But look what happens to a player like Mark Gahey, who does do all the right things. He gets the plug pulled, he gets the rug pulled from underneath him right at the last second, and he doesn't get his move. So just transfers in generally, they're just such murky business. Some of the stuff I hear, I speak to a lot of people, some of the stuff that goes on with transfers and during the transfer window, and some of the stuff that's happened at Villa in this transfer window as well. I'm sure many people wouldn't believe it. The good news is you're going to find out about quite a lot of it tomorrow, because Jacob Tanswell, my good friend who podcasts with me, he's got a big read coming out on The Athletic tomorrow morning. I've seen snippets of it. I've spoken to him through the day. There's some really, really interesting stuff in that article. So yeah, watch out for that tomorrow, because it does go into massive detail of the kind of constraints Villa have had this transfer window, some of the stuff that's happened through the transfer window, some of the behaviour of players as well. So that'll be well worth a read first thing in the morning. Just keeping an eye on my phone as well in case anything does break whilst I'm doing this stream. I'll probably be on for about half an hour or so. So get some questions in as well. If you're watching this live, there's 200 of you on right now. Do ask me. I'm just having a look whether anything is broken. Like I said at the start, absolutely nothing to worry about is my belief. Both Sancho and Elliott will be announced. I think one will be fairly imminent. One will be a little bit later on, but I wouldn't be doing this stream if I didn't think that they were going to be forming part of the Aston Villa squad. But I know people have come a cropper with shouts on social media and whatnot over the last kind of couple of weeks. I'm not trying to be clever or do that, just what I've been told. So I've come on and jumped on because I didn't really want to wait all night to do this when I knew I was going to be doing it anyway. So I've come on now and to talk about it. King 81 says, anyone else's sound out of sync? That's absolutely expected, because as I've said, the kids are home now. They weren't home earlier. They're hammering the internet, which obviously causes me problems when I'm doing a live stream. So let me know if it gets completely unbearable. I might just go and come back in quickly just to try and get it back in sync. There we go. I'm back. Let's hope that that's gone back in sync now. Not sure. Hello, David Gold, Newcastle fan, but enjoy watching this guy, and he's done some great stuff with some of our content makers. What's gone on with Martinez? How are you feeling about this coming season? Probably the same as you, David Gold. Glad that the transfer window is now over. I'm really, really happy, because it's been a constant distraction, a constant nightmare, and I'm sure you're as sick of it being a Newcastle fan as I am here, and just glad now. It almost feels like the season can start for teams like Villa and Newcastle. They know where they stand, and they know what players they're going to have, who they're not going to have. I mean, as I say, they haven't been announced yet, but they will be on board. And Newcastle, has Isak even been announced yet? I don't think Isak's actually been announced yet. I haven't seen it. If it has, Marcus Bell says, is it right that Dibu signed a new contract? No, he's not going to be signing a new contract. He only signed one a year ago, and we all saw the sound bites that came along with that. He's no new contract. That's definitely not going to be something that's on the cards. Of course, the Saudi window and the Turkish transfer window are still open for a week or so, or 2 weeks, I think. So obviously there's still a chance he may go, but I don't think Turkey or Saudi interests him. I think a lot, again, there'd have to be another big falling out behind the scenes for that to happen. Just going to pull up my tactics board like Ruben Amorim again, just because kind of looking at where we are depth-wise with these signings, and apologies, I've had to guess some squad numbers. I think I've probably guessed Lindelof number 3 and Harvey Elliott number 19 correctly. Just had to throw in a number for Sanchez. I gave him 21 because I've got a feeling he's wore that number for England or Dortmund before. I think actually he was 21 at Dortmund. So that's what I've gone with. But if you just look at the depth now, I alluded to it earlier and spoke about it earlier, that in terms of what we've got now, we are par for where we were at in the back end of last season, when we were attacking on 3 fronts with the magnificent squad that we had, and we went really close to achieving our goals, but didn't quite manage to do it. So I look at that, and as I say, it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be at the start of today. I was worried this morning with where we were standing, but I look at it now. I'm happy with it. I think it's not quite as balanced as we were last season, and I agree with James Curley there, saying right back is still a major weakness. Again, I spoke about this earlier with Rollo. I think it's a bit of a problem position for Villa in general, in terms of not just personnel and really only having Cash as the only senior right back, and sometimes when players fill in there, they're actually centre backs playing at right back, moving across. Apologies, dog's going absolutely mental downstairs. Just in terms of our system, because we don't have that naturally right-sided player, that winger like we did have Bailey holding the width for the last couple of years, who was really, really important to us. Even when he was playing badly, Jacob said this the other day, just him being there, he gave other players space, he held that width, and even if he was having a bad game, he still took on the ball and took on his man. We don't really have that profile of player in his squad unless Gasson can be turned into that player. I don't envisage Sancho is going to play right-hand side. Maybe Gasson is going to be that guy who can be trying to play there and move in. Marlon will obviously play games there as well, like he did last night, and because he's quick, he can hold that width as well. But the way I'm looking at the squad makeup here on the screen, if you're watching via YouTube, is that I think Marlon is Watkins' deputy. I think he'll be the one that plays in the Europa League in the games we expect to win when we rotate, much like Duran did in that season we were in the Conference League. I look at it now, and I think that's where he's predominantly going to play in Europe. And if anything happens to Watkins, you'll see Marlon lead the line. And of course, Gasson and Rodgers can play there also. You look at the back four, obviously the goalkeeper situation is crazy. Back four, I've got Cash Concert, Mings and Luca Dean here, with Garcia, Lindelof, Pau and Matson backing them up. It's okay. It's not spectacular. I think Lindelof is not the exciting kind of transfer that everyone wanted in this position. We could actually offer Gertruda last week, I think it was, but we couldn't get that done. We couldn't afford the finances for a low risk, kind of low wage signing that Lindelof will be. The amount of games he's probably going to play unless something happens to Konsa, I'm okay with it. It's not spectacular. It's not fancy. Obviously, it looked like we were scraping around the bottom of the barrel, and we were to an extent with the financial constraints that we had. But I'm kind of happy with that as an 8 there to pick from in terms of your back four. Central midfield, you always look at it as being one of Villa's strongest areas, with Kamara and Tillemans, and then Onana and Barkley backing up. And then you've got Bogard and McGinn who can fill in there if necessary as well. But you look at it, 3 of those players feel like they're injured all the time. Very quickly, we've ended up with John McGinn in central midfield and Bogard coming into games in central midfield. So fitness is a problem in central midfield. But again, if I look at it and everyone's fit, I'm happy for those options in a campaign when we're in the Europa League going Thursday to Sunday. Now, the 3 off Watkins is the interesting part now, obviously with Elliott and Sancho arriving. I think Sancho is going to play as a left 10. I think he's Jacob Ramsey's replacement. I think he's got that relationship with Matson when Matson plays as well from when they linked up together at Dortmund. I think that's mainly where you're going to see him. But I suppose the good thing about all these players, the 6 players I've got on this board playing off Watkins, they all play in different places. They can all play different roles. You could argue every single one of them can play in the 3 positions off the striker. So that will give us adaptability. That'll give us the versatility of the players, different players for different games, players playing in different roles, maybe exposing opponents' weaknesses, things like that. I think we've got to kind of get Rodgers into one role or the other. I think it'll probably be as a central 10. I'm expecting Harvey Elliott will play as a right 10, but as I've said earlier, then problems with the midfield. Sorry, with the width. If Harvey Elliott plays there in the fullback, it just doesn't work. Emery's got to come up with a solution there. That isn't working at the moment. It's a real weakness in the squad. But if you were to have Elliott, Rodgers, McGinn, for example, like I've lined us up here as the 3 off the striker, and you've got Sancho, Buendia, and Gasson to come into the game, it's stronger than I was anticipating we were gonna be, and it's strong enough to fight on the multiple fronts that we're fighting on. So whilst the balance of the squad isn't perfect there, it's better than it was this time last night when we're bringing kids into the team, which I'm all for because I want to see them play and I want to see them develop. But to have 4 or 5 of them on the bench last night, we needed bodies, especially when we've got a few injuries as well. I think we've done better in the end of this window than people maybe would have anticipated. We've kept our powder dry to an extent to see what that maximum headroom was. I would say, Sancho was a player that's been available for 2-3 months. Everyone knew he was going to be available. We've left it to the last second. So again, it feels like we're scraping around like the bargain basement trying to get someone in. His wages aren't as extortionate as people are reporting. We're paying 80% of them. That'll work out as around 150k, 160k a week. He's the one I feel good about for some reason now. I don't know why. I've just got a gut feeling. I had it with Rashford as well, and Rashford was a success, I'd say. I think Emery could be the making of Jadon Sancho. And I think if we play him in the right place in that left 10 position, that position is built for someone like him. And Manchester United system and Chelsea systems, they weren't built to get the best out of him. And Manchester United have been a nightmare place for players to play anyway. Let me know in the chat if you agree with me but I'm okay with what we've got here. I agree we're not as strong as we were at the back end of last season, but it's okay. So that's it's a better end to the window than I was anticipating. You've still got Bogard, Jamoa Loba, Hemmings, and all the other young players who can come into the matchday squad as well. So let me know in the comments what you think. Alex Moreno, not the Alex Moreno, says great options up front, but all on paper is one thing. Still think at the back, but I trust Unai will pull us through. That's the thing now. He's got to find the kind of way to get the best out of all these players, kind of settle it down a little bit now. Well, I mean, obviously we've shipped 3 goals last night, so defence was a problem. Emery's got a few things to work on. He's got to sort out this goalkeeping situation now as well. But we've got to get some goals. We've got to start looking like we're going to score. We've looked so unpotent in the last 3 Premier League games, 4 if you include Manchester United on the last day of last season as well. We've just got to do more. I think we had a good spell in the second half last night where we looked like we might make something happen when Buendia came on. A credit to him. I said with Rollo earlier on Claret and Blue, he's worked hard to be part of this squad and good attitude. Turned up for work last night. Came on at half time and tried to make a difference. He's played himself into being one of the players who's a contender for positions and will play a lot of games in the Europa League as well. So fair play to him. I think, people saying he's not good enough or whatnot. We're criticising someone's attitude last night. His attitude has been absolutely spot on. King 81 says, I love this idea of Elliott. I think he's the get up and go player we've needed. Works very, very hard. Has had runs in the Liverpool team as well where he's been a mainstay. He didn't play much under Slot last year. He was a backup option and scored that goal obviously against PSG in the Champions League. But in terms of, under Klopp, when he was fit, he played a lot of games for Liverpool. And obviously Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool was a very, very good team. The thing we've got to do, and I imagine he already knows where he's predominantly going to play, and he'll have been interested in that before making the move and accepting the project. I'm interested to see where we play him because he's going to come in and play. It's not like Gasson, someone who you might ease in. I think Harvey Elliott's plug in and play for Villa. I think he's going to come in and play instantly for us. I just wonder whether it will be as that central 10 or whether we'll adapt things slightly. And because he genuinely is a right 10. We've played other players as a right 10. Rodgers, McGinn, it's probably not their naturally best position. Whereas I think for Elliott, a right 10 probably is his position. So it's about now getting the components right around certain players. Watkins hasn't looked like scoring in the last few games. How are we going to get a team around him to get the best out of our number 9 and get him getting somewhere towards 20 goals in the Premier League again? The important thing now is that we have options because the setups in the first 3 games haven't been right. We haven't looked like we were going to score. We've now given ourselves a chance of getting the setup right and getting the right components around our key players, Watkins, Rodgers, because they're still going to play despite new signings. Let's see what that lineup is against Everton. Great first game for Harvey Elliott if he does play. In that, obviously going back to Merseyside, that's a great one for him. Good evening, David Stiles said, I thought Sancho did okay at Chelsea and they were a good team last season. His ceiling is high. I trust Emery can get the best out of him. Yeah, he scored a few goals for Chelsea, got a few assists. Attitude was really, really good there. Apparently, Rollo told a good story after speaking to Matt Law earlier that, okay, on the face of it, Chelsea paid £5 million not to have him. But the deadline came very quickly, and Chelsea did actually try and get that deal done, but didn't end up getting it done in the end. They were still sniffing around him and interested in him. The problem is he's obviously the wage he's on at Manchester United, and Chelsea don't pay those kind of wages. Chelsea structure their deals very, very differently in terms of long contracts, but their wage won't be as high. Probably not as high as players at Villa get, in all honesty, but definitely not as high as Manchester United players get. So there were some complications around the deal, but obviously we don't have those complications in getting him in. Mitchell Tullett says, do you think Elliott will give Emery a chance to drop Rodgers and send him a message? No, Rodgers is Emery's second name on the team sheet, along with Yuri Tillemans. He's always going to play. Even if he's on a bad game, he doesn't really come off Morgan Rodgers. His rests will come in the Europa League, I suspect. But Premier League, Rodgers is still going to start every week. And it's about, can Sancho and Elliott play with him? Where are they going to play with him? Because let's say that's the 3 off Watkins, Rodgers, Elliott and Sancho. There's 2 or 3 different ways you can line it up there in terms of where players are going to function from. That's the interesting bit now. Like, where does Emery see Rodgers playing? Obviously, towards the back end of last season, I think he's more forced into it to keep him in the team. But he played him on that right-hand side. I don't think he's going to do that this season, and he's been very reluctant to do it so far this season as well, by the way. Like, we haven't seen that happen. He's played McGinn there, which wasn't something that he did last season. It was the other way around. So I'm interested by what we'll do. I'm going to show with Jacob tomorrow as well, by the way. So we'll talk through some of that with Jacob Tanzer. Probably easy to have those kind of conversations when there's two of you. But I feel just good that the window's shut because I feel like we know where we are now. A lot of people asking about Martinez. David Starr says key now is for the Villa fans to try and forgive and forget about the Martinez situation. Let's not turn this into a thing that could derail the season. Villa fans are classy. Let's keep it so. Football's a funny game, isn't it? A footballer can do something or make a decision, and you feel like it impacts you as a supporter of that club. I keep saying it. I think we've got to be guided by Unai Emery here. How he handles it, what he comes out and says. Villa fans need to be guided by Unai. I think in this one, even what Emery's just done on Instagram, not a brilliant look, bit petulant, bit childish, but then in a way as well. And these are the kind of things that we've hero worshipped him for. Some of those behaviours. He is a very very unique character. I've a little bit of sympathy for him because I think senior players at Villa were told, if you can find a move, then we'd be open to you going because we've got financial problems. The rules aren't helping us. So I've got a little bit of sympathy for him in that like, the players were probably told that. But I haven't got sympathy for how he's behaved over the last 24 to 48 hours, and he's got some apologising to do. He's got to make sure he doesn't become a problem in that dressing room if he hasn't done so already. I truly believe he's our one truly world-class player. I genuinely believe that. And, he's got a big reputation and he's got a big ego and he's a unique character and a hard man maybe to handle at times for the club. But he's our goalkeeper. Villa will be an infinitely better team with Emi Martinez in goal this season, especially if he gets back to his usual levels. It was an off year for him last year. He obviously wanted that move to Manchester United. I think the worst thing is that he expected that move to Manchester United. It hasn't come, to my knowledge. There was never, ever a bid. So you can't behave the way you've behaved if there's never been a bid for you. Manchester United made their move for the goalkeeper. They've signed the goalkeeper that they've signed, a younger goalkeeper. That fits in more with their strategy. I said yesterday, even after everything, I just didn't see it happening. I couldn't see how it ended up happening because I knew Villa would have to get in another number one goalkeeper as well, which I didn't see happening. But it turns out it hasn't even not happened because of Villa. It's not happened because he's been strung along by Manchester United all summer and strung along by Ruben Amorim all summer, Emi Martinez. So he's got to build some bridges and mend some fences now, Emi Martinez. I think the international break is crucial. Obviously, he'll go away with his country. He'll talk to his people. He's probably got to come out and say something, I would say. I don't think he can just come back in without saying anything, without addressing the fans, even if it's just something on social media. It's no good doing the peace signs and kind of trying to wind up people with what he's done today. He's got to come out and say something. Rollo was a bit saying there's no way back for him. I don't believe that. I think there'll be a way back. But I will say I think what the players and Emery say in public will probably be different to what they think in private. But I think Emery will come out and say we've got to get behind him and he's our number one goalkeeper. He comes into the team. He's Villa's number one. And he'll be number one for us this season. So let's hope he can make it a successful one. Peterson158 says, I think we need a Tanswell article about the whole Martinez situation this year. It will be in his article in the morning. I expect tomorrow, as I've seen snippets of it, I expect tomorrow to be a big read from Jacob on the on the Athletic. Weston says, exactly what can Villa do if a proper offer hasn't come in for him? That's exactly the point. If you're him as well, and if you think about his actions at the back end of last season against Tottenham at home, you don't react like that if you don't think you're going. So he thought he was going. My kind of knowledge and feeling around it is that he thought he was going to Spain. He thought he was going to La Liga to play for Atletico Madrid at the start of the transfer window. Transpired that wasn't going to happen, and then the Manchester United links have been there all summer. Obviously, he's changed agent. His agent's got one agenda. You can see some of the stuff that's been fed to Fabrizio Romano today. Everyone has their own agenda in the transfer window. There was even a kind of spurious story that came out about the Sancho deal being related to the Martinez deal, and that didn't happen because Sancho didn't want to come to Villa permanently. An absolute load of cobblers. That is the most obvious lie I've ever seen in my life on social media. And people say a lot on social media, as you know. So don't listen to that. Pure fabrication. Not anything that's ever been on the card. Sancho to Villa permanently was never, ever a thing. We all know this from our finances anyway. We weren't going to be able to bring in a permanent signing of Jadon Sancho, but what we could do is have the loan, completely unrelated to the Emi Martinez deal. They've chose the keeper that they've chose, and the keeper they chose was not Emi Martinez. So he's going to have to eat some humble pie and get himself back on board and get himself mentally right to attack the season now with Aston Villa. Fed up of bullshit says, guided by Emery, Emery will be gone soon. He won't be gone soon. I've got long-term worries because of the constraints that Villa are operating in, but he won't be gone soon. That's not going to happen this season. He won't go mid-season. Unai Emery, 26CY says, Dan, now the transfer window is closed, what do you think for the season? Have your predictions? Well, before the transfer window closed, I said 5th in the Europa League. I must admit, I'm not feeling as clever about that prediction right now. I'm going to hold fire on it and have a think about it before I come back and make a lavish prediction. But just because we've lost 2 of our first 3 doesn't mean the season's over. There's still plenty of football to be played, plenty of time for us to reach our ambitions, and plenty for the team and the club to attack this season. Plenty of competitions to fight on as well. So I'm not going to worry about where we're going to finish and all that now. I'm glad the international break's here. I'm glad the transfer window is shut. That's my overriding emotion right now. I've had enough of this transfer window for various reasons, and I'm just glad that it's done. And it's a good thing for Aston Villa now that it's done. Captain K, good footballer. Captain K says, we forgave Duran when he showed us the hammer sign on the socials this time last year. Can we do the same with Emma? Rollo was talking about this. It's easier to forgive a striker because they score goals. And Duran did do that, in fairness, in the first half of the season. But that guy was trying to move the entire time he was at the football club. Emi Martinez hasn't been like that. I'm so sad at what's happened, because from where we were a year ago with Emi, a lot seems to have changed with him. And it's a shame, because he's been such a good player for us, such a good signing, one of our most important signings that we've made in my time as a Villa fan. I hope it can turn around and become a positive again, but I do think it's going to be really, really hard. Philly D says, what about these reports of Martinez starting arguments on the training pitch and him pointing at his World Cup tattoo to prove he's better than other players at the club? Not a story I've heard. Don't know anything about that. But obviously there's problems in the dressing room at the moment, and Martinez is a ringleader of that by virtue of the way he's behaved over the last week. You don't need to be a genius to think to kind of read between the lines, or not. It's not even reading between the lines, is it? It's reading what's on the page to know what's gone on in the last few weeks. Thank you for your kind words there, 26CY. Cheers for answering, Dan. Always enjoy your content. All the best with your Villa-related work for the season. I'm just hoping for an announcement whilst I was on, but I've been absolutely done over here. As I said at the start, still nothing to worry about. Those announcements will come. It's just the transfer window is crazy, isn't it? How can it be shut and we don't know anything? But it's nothing to worry about. The 2 players will sign. You'll have seen the pictures of the 1 player anyway, like I have. So yeah, the 2 players will sign. Don't worry about that. I was just hoping that I would get to do it here between 8 and half 8, but it has not happened. Just one last rundown of social media. Quick plug you can probably go back and listen to the stuff that I did today, or watch the stuff that I did earlier on today anyway, because obviously I'm talking about Harvey Elliott, talking about Emi Martinez, talking about Lindelof. That's been done on the shows that I did earlier. So go back and listen and watch them if you haven't done already. Most important one is to watch the content with my dad, trying to do this new kind of match day content based around me going to the football with my dad. He's got a big for his boots, in all honesty, in the last 24 hours. I saw him replying to comments and leaving comments on the video earlier, which I was absolutely shocked to see. 74-year-old man doing that, but yep, he's doing it. But do go and watch the content, because it gives a little flavour of what it's like for me going to the Villa with my dad, something I've done my whole life that's really special to me and really special to him, I think, as well, even though he cares more about his fantasy football team than he does. Yeah, go and watch that if you want to see what my match day is like with my dad. Obviously, we've been going together, as I say, for 30 years. I had a season ticket for 32, 33 years now together in the whole 10. So if you could go and watch that for me, that would be absolutely great. Don't forget to check out NordVPN as well. I'm really making this outro long so that maybe something will change in the time that I'm doing this outro. Just been Villa admin is awake. Villa can confirm that Redmond has joined Huddersfield Town on a season-long loan. That's a good move for him. play some EFL football, get some, get a feel of what the English game is like. That's great. Good for him. There's lots of other people reporting that Elliott and Sancho are done. So as I say, not a thing to worry about here. What else was I going to plug? I was going to plug something else, and I've completely forgotten what it was. Tanswell and me in the morning doing a podcast, so that will happen this window for Villa. If you're not subscribed to the Athletic, because obviously he'll talk about it, but do subscribe to the Athletic anyway. And yeah, I'm gonna have to call it. So thank you very much for watching and listening. Like, comment, reviews, everything, all the things that I go on about every single week. If you could, that would be absolutely superb. Yeah, let's go. I don't think I'm going to be jumping on again tonight. My wife will kill me if I do. It's time for me to go downstairs. So yeah, have a good rest of your night. Keep your eyes on social media because it will be announced. Don't worry about that. And as always, up the Villa.